Race 10, and it is raining in Monaco. Tonali Gabo starts on pole from Gav Sanchez and Lawless Leclerc. What can the home driver do from then? Then it's the two Diaz of Nelson and Revo. Then it's the Red Devil, Pablo Sierra. Pierre Gasly outqualifies his teammate. Then Xavier Kubica, Sebastian Ocampo, Bamness Jr., Ica World, and UK Ball. Following them is Racing, Remy LeBeau, and now you find championship leader Awful Catfish. Then it's the McLarens of Wallace and Volstad, Bogdasarov, Cosmas Medicis, Scuttlin, Rosak, and Verstio. Well then, rain falling here in Monaco for the first time since season 16, if I remember correctly. All 5 lights go on. And the Monte Carlo E3 is green. Brilliant start from Gav Sanchez across the line. And he's already alongside Gabo as they head through Saint-Devot. Gabo keeping himself in the race lead ahead of Sanchez as they rise through this part of the track into Casino Square, turn number 4. And Sanchez on the outside, heading down the hill into Mirabeau. And Nelson and Leclerc squabbling over third. There goes the home driver up into third position, and in fact tries to go into second, fourth, a little bit wider than he would have wanted to. He has to take some avoiding action and drops down to fourth, and he's alongside Nelson. In fact, Wallace further back with a 5-second time penalty. Sanchez lost time. The two drivers fighting over third in Nelson and Leclerc, still side by side as they head through the Nouvelle chicane. Almost contact with the rear, and we've got yellows down in the second sector. Pierre Gasly at what counts as one of his 2 home races, considering that Monaco is the Principality of France. He's hit the wall. Yellows again in the second. I'm not too sure who that one's for. It's up for Bogdasarov, who has a bent out of shape front wing and is down in 22nd. It might be for him, but out in front, Gabo still leads. 1 second ahead of Sanchez, who's a further second ahead of Lawless Leclerc. The two Techeetah drivers running 4th and 5th, and we've got yellows in sector 3. That one is not for Daniel Bogdasarov. I don't think it might have been. Actually, you know what? Considering the state of his front wing, it probably is for him. If it is, then that's just ruined his race more than personally I thought was possible. As you're watching the championship leader driving car number 2, as it would stand, I believe he would drop to about 4th in the driver's standings just because of how close everything is. As they come through the tunnel, the entire field separated by 19 seconds. That's about a sector and a half. Possibly 2 sectors. I mean, no, it is a sector and a half if you take a look at the mini-map. And we've got yellows down in the second. Oh, that's Zach Wallace! Zach Wallace in the wall! And the 2 Nissan drivers coming to see him. Also getting in a bit of trouble, Bogdasarov in the barriers, hitting the Sega logo on the wall. He's going to pit at the end of this lap, surely. Volstad struggling out there, and he's got front wing damage too. It's only the 3rd lap of 19. Wallace misses pit entry. Some of these drivers aren't pitting, even though they probably almost certainly should. This man, Tonali Gabo's faced no problems, however. But at the same time, 19 laps left to run. Verstio in 18th. Fastest first sector. Bogdasarov comes into the pits. Newens is coming on as they get that front wing fixed up. Fastest second sector going to Tonali Gabo. He's pulling quite a lot of time ahead, and the Red Devil's got front wing damage. The man in 6th position currently, and his teammate who is fighting for the championship. That is not what you'd like to see, and a lot of weaving it into the wall again for the Red Devil. And he's heading on to the main straight. He was weaving and he had no grip, and look at the state of his front wing. He's going to have to pit very soon. The 2 McLaren drivers, I believe, will be coming into the pits at the end of this lap. Volstad's passed by pit entry. I believe Wallace has to come in, though. He's staying out. Wallace stays out. He doesn't have the grip to make the turn in. A lot of drivers right now hoping for the track to dry up. As you can see, UK Ball, standout podium last time out. He's trying to get himself into the points this time out as his teammate's up in 7th. And he's following Sebastian Ocampo. Verst-Theo further back, 5 second time penalty, and he's in the wall. Verst-Theo is in the barriers. Volstad's still got front wing damage. Theo doesn't, so I'm guessing that's why there weren't any yellow flags, although there was a car stopped on track as Catfish goes off the track and the Red Devil faces the wrong direction. That's a backwards facing Kiro car at the Nouvelle chicane, and oh my goodness me, this is absolutely insane. Out of the race is gone Zach Wallace, and the Red Devil, Remy LeBeau, a championship contender, is in the gravel trap further back, and it's only lap 5 of 19, and already both Kiro drivers are out, and the 2 Nissans involved in that too, but one of them has more damage than the other. I can tell you already who it is. Volstad's out of this race. Volstad out. Neither McLaren driver will finish, and Bogdasarov in the barriers. Cosmas Bodesis hits the wall, and he struggles to get himself out of there right now under the full course yellow conditions, and he's out. Cosmas Bodesis out of this race. Leclerc's dropped down to 5th position while we weren't looking at the front, and Pablo Sierra's in the barriers too. Also into the wall, Pierre Gasly. This is the big one in Monaco in wet conditions. Full course yellow's going to be ending apparently into, I think that's UK ball he hit. Yeah, it was. UK balls it again. Out of the race has gone someone else, and I can't tell who it is. Sanchez is out. Babinis Jr. They're both out of this race. Gabo's got tons of front wing damage. And also into the wall, Pablo Sierra. 13 laps to go. And somehow, this race here in Monaco has gone from 0 to 1 million in terms of carnage. Yeah, you had drivers slamming into that wall in particular, but, you know, that's par for the course in Monaco. Yellow's in the 3rd sector once again, and, oh, I don't even know who it is. I think it might be Catfish. Catfish has front wing damage. You've got Ocampo also with damage. Marcus Nelson alongside Gabo takes the lead in Monaco. His teammate on the back of the fellow Italian. You've got the 7 and the 29, 2 Italian drivers to 2 still in this race. They're going to go side by side heading through the tunnel, and Gabo's got no pace. Yellow's in the 3rd sector for Daniel Bogdasarov. Track's been cleared, but for Tonali, Gabo, he's in the wall again. Into the wall goes Tonali Gabo, and he's called the roadblock. Xavier Kubica gets a 5-second time penalty out of the race. Goes Tonali Gabo. He was flipped on his head effectively. And, oh, it's a traffic jam. Leclerc, the home driver, up into 3rd position where he started. Sierra is also out of this race. Verst-Theo hits the wall and goes airborne. And that's also championship leader Arthur Catfish in the barriers as the TS Techeetah drivers lead the way. And Campo, he's in that muck as well. He's out of this. Catfish is out. Championship leader Catfish out of this race. Scotland Rossack goes through. Gasly's caused the roadblock with Xavier Kubica and Ica World. So many drivers out of this, and there's only a handful of laps left to go. And by a handful, I mean 12. There are 9 drivers still in this race here in Monaco, as we are under the full course yellow conditions. On board with Marcus Nelson as the full course yellow ends. He's leading in Monaco, and he's in the wall in Monaco. Also into the wall, his teammate is looking to gain a lot through the fact that all of his championship rivals are out. We are hoping to get any finishes today. Bogdasarov pits. New front wing for him, certainly, and this is going to be his 2nd stop in wet conditions. That's somewhat embarrassing. Here comes Nelson going through the chicane. He's struggling indeed. In Revo, he's probably going to be struggling a lot more. Considering the state of his front wing, he's staying out. Leclerc right behind him. Xavier Kubica in 4th. UK ball for Power Motorsport. He set a fastest 2nd sector of anyone. And honestly, this race has just been hectic, to say the least. There's so much that's been going on. Like, we were under constant full course yellows for a second there, and by a second I mean long while. So the fact that we're currently in this situation is insane, and I argue as well as that the teams in the server, they're probably going to be very happy that we did end up going to Brazil for race 9 instead of going here, because if we went here, then most of the teams, their bank account balances would be very displeasurable. The clerk struggling out there, so many drivers with damage. In fact, I feel confident in saying this, there is not a driver out there today who hasn't hit at least one wall or driver or anything of the sort. Lap 9 of 19 here in Monte Carlo, and Revo pits for his first stop. Hard tires going on, so he'll be able to make it to the end. Leclerc comes in, mediums go on. Do you want to know what that means? It's drying up. And look at this, Bogdasarov goes to unlap himself. I don't believe what I'm seeing. As they come through the station hairpin, they've got to be careful not to hit the walls. And they're still alongside each other heading into the tunnel. Look at that. There's no rain falling. It's dry. Leclerc's come out ahead of Revo. He's got the net race lead. Here comes Marcus Nelson through the chicane. He's got enough grip to keep his car pointing in the straight direction. But this is not what we're caring about. We're caring about this. Lawless Leclerc, who won a race here in Formula 1, as I believe that's Bogdasarov into the wall, yes. Lawless Leclerc is back in a possible race-winning condition. And was that Nelson in the wall? It was Nelson in the wall. He's going to be going on to hard tires as well. I believe hard tires will be the favorable strategy today. I'm actually not too sure if Leclerc's going to be able to take the lead from Nelson here. 9 laps to go. Bogdasarov comes in for his third and hopefully final stop. He's onto the hard tires as well. These drivers and teams are not taking any risks. They don't want to fight for position. They've been beaten, bloodied throughout the first 8 laps of this race. And knowing that there are still 9 to go, there are still 9 more laps in this race, with 9 drivers left in this race. And the fact that Bogdasarov is a lap down, well, a lot could have been done. And for Cosmas Medicis, just pointing this out, his teammate, Skaselin Rotak, in the 74, he's currently up in 8th position. Cosmas is out of this race. For a driver who, in the first 10 seasons of the ERL, had such a storied career and was one of those drivers you just wanted to see eventually take the car, for him to have started in the first 10 races of the season and has scored 0 points, meanwhile his teammate is looking to score 5 points, which is, I mean, it's not a lot. It's still bottom of the table, but it's still something. It's either that, of course, Scotland is doing better than Medicis and is actually the better driver. Medicis is just still trying to get to grips with the ERL 02 as Leclerc sets a new fastest lap of 106.1. Or what I believe is probably what's going on, that is, Nissan just doesn't have the car to fight for the championship. They don't have the car to fight for anything, really. New Cable sets a new fastest lap, 106.166. And, you know, 20 out of the 22 cars on this grid, they all have the pace to win the championship. It then comes down to the driver. Nissan, with this new car, they just haven't adapted as quickly, and that's unfortunate, to be honest. That's probably why Sims reached out to Porsche for this season to get those new powertrains in, and Kiro decided to hop in on that party too. And go on to lap 12 and 19. And you know what probably makes it worse is that Sims, in season 21, before Porsche came in, Porsche were not on the grid in season 21, and yet Sims decides, you know what, we're not even going to stay with Nissan for this season. We're going to, for one season and one season alone, move to the DS powertrain and see what happens then. Do you want to know what happened there? Catfish got them their first race win. Marcus Nelson is looking at a race win today here in Monaco. Last season, all the Crown Jewel events were won by the same driver. This season, Well, that's an impossibility because while Sanchez won first time out in Shanghai, he's out of this race here in Monaco. If you can even call it a race with how much chaos and carnage there's been. And there's a possibility, of course, that more chaos and carnage is to follow, with the 9 drivers still in this race. But that would effectively require punctures. Nelson sets a 106.116. These lap times are getting closer and closer to quote-unquote perfect in terms of their tyres that they're on. 6 laps to go here in the ERL Formula E Series race in Monte Carlo. One of the 3 Crown Jewel races. The next Crown Jewel race is in London because it has hosted a race in every season. In some instances, it's hosted 2 races. In fact, this season marks the 25th running of the Monte Carlo E3. Not even Monte Carlo, the London E3 rather. The 25th London E3 of all things. 25. That's kind of insane. As we are watching Marcus Nelson do what he can to hold on to the race lead here in Monaco. I don't know if Marcus has won this race. He probably won it back in season 9, his championship winning season, because he was just dominant then. But with 5 laps to go, and far removed from the opening lap fiascos, plural, I think we have our finishing order already, because the gap between first and second is 5 seconds, second and third is just over a second, third and fourth is quite a ways back, and you know what, the highest position fight that we'll probably get is in the dying laps of 4th. Nothing for the podium. It might as well just be wrapped up. But look at the state of the mediums. Those medium tires are showing signs of blistering. The hard tires are at 68% tire wear. Leclerc might want to stick it out on those mediums, but if he's going to give a good performance to his home crowd, then I make this humble suggestion to Trackhouse Racing. Pull him into the pits. We saw in practice a lot of teams who were doing long runs, but also fast runs. They really struggled in the second and third sectors to keep that car on the road. And you know what? There's a possibility that that struggle continues if Leclerc is to do that. And in fact, he's dropped so much time. He's dropped so much time behind him. But still, that's not really that much to talk about. I mean, all strategic maneuvers have played out, except Xavier Kibitz are coming into the pits right now for the medium compound tyres. And I expect UK Ball to do the exact same thing, because look at the state of those softs with 4 laps to go. Marcus Nelson, however, still leading the way, and I don't expect much else to happen in this race. Xavier's going to drop down to 8th. He's not going to drop any further because Bogdasarov, he is a lap down. So if anything's going to happen, it's going to come down to strategy. As we are watching behind with Marcus Nelson. 3 laps to go here in Monte Carlo. There are only a handful of laps to go. I just said that, didn't I? I'm sorry. It's just kind of boring, is all I'm saying. When you have a race that starts out as explosive as this Monte Carlo E3 did, with constant full course yellows, you could argue that this race has been a farce. I'd argue this race has been one of the greatest wreckfests in the ERL's history. Much better than anything that you've seen in where is it again? Marina Bay. So there's not too much to commentate over. You've got Revo closing in, and it doesn't matter. Leclerc pulls into the pits. Soft tires will likely go into the Trackhouse Mercedes man's car. Hards? Okay. I see no point in doing that. Might as well put on soft tires and go for the fastest lap, but no. Hard tires it is for Lars Leclerc, and he might lose out on the podium to Pierre Gasly. He does. He's behind the power driver, and he might get passed by his own Angolan teammate as U-Cable comes into the pits for a second stop. 29% tire wear on those softs. He's going on to another set of softs. Good move from Power Motorsport. That means they can try and chase after the rest of the pack. Stadler and Rossack comes in for a set of mediums once again. And for Trackhouse, maybe they didn't have another set of softs ready for him, but he's looking for a way. He's not even looking. He's trying with all he's got to get himself back onto the podium. And you want to know something? If he can keep it clean through the Nouvelle Chicane, he can! Lars Leclerc back up into third position. And it's a third position that probably would have been easier to get if he had made it. If he had made the switch onto soft tires. Of course, that's assuming he had soft tires. We're on to the penultimate lap here in Monte Carlo. Marcus Nelson, well, he's been leading ever since we've moved to the dry conditions. And in these dry conditions, there's been no real incident. That's the good thing. It'll also be reminiscent to not notice how hectic this race started, but of course, these things happen in the ERL especially. It's going to lead to a massive swing in the championship points. And do you want to know what else is massive? Revo's podium total, and Marcus Nelson's in fact. Both of these drivers, of course, starting in Season 1. Of course, Nelson having a few moments where he wasn't racing, but he's back in the Techeetah number 13. As we now head to the final lap here in Monaco. Marcus Nelson leads. Behind him is Daniel Bogdasarov, but he's a lap down in 9th. Revo is the man in 2nd position. And for Trackhouse Mercedes, a 3-5 finish is a brilliant result. And for Lars Leclerc, who's going for a championship this season, you've got 8 drivers, as I said at the end of the Sao Paulo broadcast. You've got 8 drivers in the hunt for the championship. A race like Monaco is going to derail so many championship hunts. I believe that Revo will be leading the championship after today. If not him, it will be his teammate. And it's a teammate who hasn't been this close to holding the title since Season 20. He hasn't won a championship since Season 9. That was his only one. There are 4 championships down at Techeetah, and this man's going to try and make it 5 and make the playing field more even. Heading through Antonino's turn, it'll be Marcus Nelson today who wins the Monte Carlo E-Prix. Behind him, his teammate Revo will make it a Techeetah 1-2 finish. 13-7. Bogdasarov's come across the line a lap down, and further back we've got a little bit of an issue. Was that Iker welding the wall? It was Iker in the barriers. Xavier Kubica on the back of him, trying to hustle him and give it up for Lars Leclerc, who's come across the line in 3rd position in front of his home fans. We're watching his teammate, however, a few seconds removed from Pierre Gasly, defend from Xavier Kubica, who has attack mode. He's closing in, and he hasn't made the move. U-Cable comes across the line in 7th with the fastest lap of 104.050, and Scuttle and Rossack will come through Antonino's turn in 8th position, last of the lead lap finishes. Bogdasarov, of course, last of the actual finishes. What was that race, is all I can say. We've got a podium with some of the greatest names in the ERL's history. You've got Marcus Nelson, the Season 9 champion, winning from Revo, the Seasons 16, 17, and 20 champion, and Lars Leclerc, who is undoubtedly going to be a future Drivers' Champion. Then Pierre Gasly, Ica World, Xavier Kubica, UK Bulls, Scuttle and Rotak are your lead lap finishers, with the only driver to finish off the lead lap being Daniel Bogdasarov. Your non-finishers, are you ready for this? Were Verstio, Sebastian Ocampo, Pablo Sierra, Tonali Gabo, Apple Catfish, Ray Shen, Dav Sanchez, Ionet Babinis Jr., Oscar Volstad, Cosmas Medicis, the Red Devils, Zach Wallace, and Remy LeBeau. In the driver's standings, Revo leads 3 points ahead of teammate Marcus Nelson. Then it's Apple Catfish, Dav Sanchez, Sebastian Ocampo, Lars de Klerk, Daniel Bogdasarov, Remy LeBeau, Ray Shen, Ica World, Xavier Kubica, the Red Devils, Zach Wallace, Tonali Gabo, UK Ball, Pierre Gasly, Verspio, Babinis Jr., Oscar Volstad, Pablo Sierra, Scuttle and Rotak, and Cosmas Medicis, who is still yet to score any points. In the constructors' standings, heading into round number 11, that's not the constructors, this is DS Techeetah lead the way, and they lead the way convincingly on 211 points. Then it's DS Andretti, Trackhouse Mercedes, Sims Porsche, Kiro Porsche, Venturi Formula E Team, not even DS, Edams Renault, Mercedes EQ, Power Renault, McLaren Mercedes, and Nissan Nismo. We're still in the single digits. But we will see you guys again next time when the ERL Formula E Series returns.